Hey, what's going on, guys? It's been a minute since I did a video, and today what I'm going to talk about is just kind of putting together a directory of the best information out there on Twitter for power law and MSTR and options. I haven't done a ton of research. I've just been backtesting option strategies, and I think all the research has been done. Hunter Jeff, Ryan Quant, there's a new guy on the block. I forget his name, that's doing a great job. All the power law stuff is really well thought out and thorough. There's just fantastic research and resources out there for anyone who wants to use it. Right now, I don't know exactly what I want to contribute, so I'm trying to just put together a little overview of the different really important key metrics and information that each individual person has contributed, and that way you kind of have it all in one place and you can go visit their profiles as you see fit from this video. So let me hop into it. Hopefully it's helpful. If not, don't watch the video. So firstly, I'm going to talk about this investment thesis from Chris Millos, and he doesn't have a ton of followers. You should all follow him. He just posted this article. It was reposted by Grain of Salt, and it was just like a fantastic, really, really readable overview of why MSTR is just a fantastic buy. And something I just want to highlight too is the volatility of MSTR makes it such that you can literally make crazy returns in this stock even if you don't want to own it for the long run. So let's say you figure MSTR is going to trade sideways for a year. Right now, the weekly options premium is about 4.5% on owning just the underlying MSTR. So if you own $100,000 worth of MSTR, you can pretty much earn 4.5 thousand bucks a week just selling covered calls, and that doesn't take into account taxes or the price of the stock going down, you name it. But the volatility is so significant that people are just willing to bet on these swings. And if you're the house, you're selling these calls, it's really good money. And that doesn't even consider you rolling the calls into your position or rolling the premiums into your position. But I just want to compare that to Apple stock, which you can right now receive about, for an at-the-money call, a 0.6% weekly premium. So you can see, like, there's a huge difference here in such a volatile stock, and the likes of which have never been seen. So even if you don't think MSTR is a good buy, if you want to just hold shares and sell weekly calls, your annualized performance on that portfolio is still going to be massive, like really, really big. So volatility is great, and I don't think people have caught on quite yet. Now, so go through this sheet. I'm going to highlight it down below from Millos here, and I'm pronouncing that probably wrong, but Chris Millos, and this is just fantastic, the best overview, and a lot of it's recycled information from Hunter Jeff and RY Quant. He's added some really interesting insights too, and it's just so good for anyone getting in the game. I highly recommend that. Now, looking here, we can look at APSK 32. You've probably seen him on a bunch of stuff. And I think the main question on everyone's mind, the whole power law, is how do you actually measure these bubbles? Is there an effective way to measure the bubbles? And APSK has done like a really good job of using this years ahead as a model for where the bubbles are forming, and you can see years ahead of support. And the reason I really, really like this is because it's pinned. It kind of normalizes isn't the right word, but it adjusts for the decreasing CAGR of Bitcoin according to the power law. And we know the power law is rooted in large part in the physical properties of Bitcoin, including the hash rate and the user adoption. So for those reasons, I really like that this models the bubbles using the decrease in CAGR of the power law. Now, he's got another, this is a great chart he's created as well, showing the Bitcoin just bubbles and the different years of the cycle. We'll see if that continues. I still think it will continue, depending on how the cycle shapes up. This cycle right now is shaping up much like past cycles. We haven't seen an exponential bull run yet, considering we're in this yellow year. We're not in the full green year. So again, APSK, best visualization is out there, and he's got some automated ones that are just so good. Now, this guy sminced in with just killer analysis. He's on one of Fred Krueger's channels, and he does this Bitcoin decay channel oscillator, which uses a decay model over the cycle tops, based on cycle tops from the support, the power law support, and is that a great way to do it? It's another way to do it that's fantastic in my opinion. So you've got this channel, and it models exponential decay, and I'm a bit wary of that. I'm kind of nervous about using only the data points from the tops of the bubbles, because the fact that there's so few data points around these bubble tops makes it such that it's hard to fit any sort of data strictly to the tops of bubbles. Like if you were to fit these data points using an exponential decay, then it's like you're really not using that much data, whereas the power law we fit using all the data. So I tend to prefer deviations from power law as opposed to exponential decay, but who knows, maybe this exponential decay could prove to be a much better model. And regardless, this channel decay oscillator is presented very interesting, very just fantastically here, and it's very much in line with any sort of years ahead of support peak timing that other people have done. So it's a great metric that we can continue to use and look at. So, and Spencer Will is just fantastic. He's got the best stuff. He's got really good visualizations. He's got this animation. Yeah. So, and exponential decay is something that people really consider. So what will I be using? This seems to be right on par with any other sort of power law deviation model. It's just another way of looking at it. Next, I'm going to look at Cena 21st Capital's power law deviation model, and you can see here he uses a volatility adjusted power law index, and so this is yet another way. So you've got years ahead of support, which is adjusting for the decreasing CAGR of Bitcoin. You've got this exponential decay deviation from the power law, and now you've got this volatility adjusted power law index, which adjusts for Bitcoin's decreasing volatility. So these are three completely different approaches to targeting and finding when we're at a real bubble. And he's highlights here, it's accurately pointed out peaks, which is fantastic, love that, and troughs, so really good. And I'm not exactly sure how he calculates this. I know he's just adjusting the peaks and the deviation from the power law based on the trailing volatility of Bitcoin, which is a very good way. I've tried to calculate that in the past as well, and I think it's just a great way to do it, simply because we know Bitcoin's volatility is decreasing, and that's a great way to kind of normalize how high or low the Bitcoin price will go. Other than that, I've got one more. I've got nothing else. Actually, I have nothing else there on the power law. There's probably other really good models out there trying to figure out and time these bubbles, so I'd love you to point them out in the comments and link them. But I just wanted to point out these four guys here who are just like absolutely killing it with this analysis. You've got this, and this information's out there for anyone to read. You've got this investment thesis on MSTR, which is an asymmetrical trade to the upside. Then you've got all these power law, which is based in fundamental like physics. These power law, and people might argue with that, and obviously power law could break, whatever, but it's based on user adoption, and hash rate's based on user adoption, and you go price is related to user adoption. Makes a lot of sense to me. I think it makes a lot of sense to a lot of really smart kind of engineering people, and so for the time being, until I see otherwise, I'm definitely defaulting to the power law, and MSTR is a great way to get sort of upside in that game. And I talked about the options. Options are a great way to capitalize on this, because in traditional financial markets, like, you can't really time. It's very difficult to time the market, and with Bitcoin, it's difficult to time Bitcoin on a short-term basis. But the reason I bought at 18K a coin was because I knew in 4 years there'd probably be a mega peak, and like, is that timing the market with a high enough time frame? Maybe it's timing the market, but we have tools at our disposal to capitalize on this knowledge in the form of options, in the form of kind of educated leverage, whether that be taking loans or whatever. So there's a lot more money to be made in this whole thing than just the 16x from here to $1 million a coin, in my opinion. There's a lot more money to be made. And I think it was Money or Debt said, it's really if you integrate the Bitcoin price over the power law, so you got the power law support and then you integrate the Bitcoin price, that is really your profit potential. And that's a really, really powerful way of looking at this whole thing, in my opinion. Other than that, I don't have anything else today. These are great ways of looking at the power law. Right now we're just sitting tight. I think Bitcoin tanked a little bit, but it bounced back, so everything's kind of the same. The longer we trade sideways here, the more this seems like we're behaving like a past cycle. I was quite excited last spring when we were ripping super high 73K, but I was nervous. Like, this doesn't look like a prior cycle. Like, we were way earlier than we should have been. So this cool down period it's just kind of retraced to how Bitcoin's behaved in past cycles. So things are looking good. If you're a power law believer or a cycle believer, you don't have to prescribe to the power law. Maybe you think we're going to 500K a coin and then retracing to 200K a coin. If you think that, even still, we're on track with the cycles. So hopefully that was helpful. Thanks for watching. I'll link all these guys in the description, and they can their work speaks for themselves. I'm merely just an aggregator of information here.